You've already lost thousands and you don't even realize it yet. The average American household spends about $16,900 every year on bills they know are coming. And just because they didn't plan for these expenses, they don't have the cash when these bills hit. Now it's actually wild because somehow you always remember when the Super Bowl finale is. But when your car insurance renewal comes, which happens the exact same month every single year, it still catches you off guard. Not only that, but those unprepared bills are also going to cost you extra. Research shows that 41% of Americans rely on credit cards after paying their monthly essentials. So when that $800 insurance bill hits and you don't have any cash on hand, you put it on a credit card. At the average interest rate of 24%, that $800 becomes $992 by the time you pay it off. You just paid $192 extra for the exact same insurance. Now scale that across all your predictable expenses. Even if just 30% of that $16,900 ends up financed on credit cards, that means $5,000 needs to be repaid with 24% interest. That's an extra $1,200 per year, simply because you weren't prepared. And this extra cost is absolutely avoidable. In this video, we'll show you how sinking funds can prepare you for these recurring bills and help you stop paying that unnecessary $1,200 every year. So what exactly is a sinking fund? A sinking fund is like putting a little bit of money aside each month for something you know you'll need to pay for later. Think of it like a special jar for one specific thing, like your car insurance or holiday gifts or something as simple as buying a new washing machine. But how is a sinking fund different from other funds you have heard of, like an emergency fund or long-term savings? It boils down to two things: how predictable it is and how often it happens. If you can predict the expense and it happens less than monthly, that's a sinking fund. On the other hand, emergency funds are designed for things you can't predict, like a medical emergency or your car breaking down. And long-term savings are for major purchases down the road, like buying a house or a new vehicle, where you're building up over the years. But all three of these funds serve the same purpose. They make sure you have cash available when you actually need it. And that keeps your costs down because you're not paying interest or fees on top of your expenses. Now, to understand which expenses should be covered by sinking funds, we need to see the full picture. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average American household spent $77,280 in 2023. Of that, about $39,000 goes to monthly budget expenses like rent, groceries, and utilities that you pay every single month. Another $17,000 goes to general savings and retirement contributions for long-term goals. But a lot of people miss that buried in that $77,280 is about $16,900 worth of expenses that are predictable but happen less than monthly. They're the kind of costs that catch people off guard. And that's exactly where sinking funds come in. We'll break down every major expense that deserves its own sinking fund, how much it typically costs, how often it shows up, and how to plan for it before it hits. Based on U.S. household spending data, these categories are ranked from the largest sinking fund expense to the smallest. Let's go through them one by one. The biggest single expense in this category is car insurance, hence the first one on our list. The average American pays about $2,671 per year for full coverage. So, if you divide $2,671 by 12, that's $223 per month. Enter the sinking funds. Set aside $223 per month, and by the time your insurance renews, the full amount is already sitting there in your account, and you save yourself the expensive refinancing part. Now, let's move on to the second one on our list: cash contributions. According to national data, the average household spends about $2,755 a year on this category. We're talking about gifts, donations, and predictable support payments for birthdays, holidays, and anniversaries. Now, the problem here is that these expenses might not feel like bills, but they happen every year on a predictable schedule. So, think about setting aside $230 a month in a gifts and giving sinking fund. By the time the next round of birthdays, holidays, and special occasions rolls around, you're ready. After giving to others, the next category brings the focus back to you. That brings us to number 3 on our list: apparel, averaging about $1,945 a year. This covers seasonal clothing, work outfits, shoes, and more. What usually happens is that you notice things wearing out all at once, like a faded uniform or a seasonal change that needs warmer clothes. So you buy everything in big batches, and that cluster of purchases throws your budget off balance. So, the fix here is to spread it out. If your yearly clothing costs are around $2,000, start setting aside about $165 a month. By the time you need an upgrade, you can buy new clothes without the expensive refinancing costs. Once you've invested in how you present yourself, the next step is investing in what you know. That's number 4, education, which averages about $1,443 a year. Education expenses are predictable, which include tuition payments, course fees, and school supplies. You may see that everything from enrollment fees to back-to-school costs seems to land all at once. So, to avoid any problems, build your sinking fund. If you know your yearly education costs total around $1,500, set aside about $125 a month. That way, when semester payments or learning opportunities come up, you can say yes without swiping a card. But life without a little play is boring, which brings us to number 5 on our list: entertainment. The average household spends around $3,458 a year on fun. This includes vacations, concert tickets, events, and seasonal leisure activities. The issue is, most people don't plan for them. After all the fun, it's time to take care of the part that makes it all possible: your health. That brings us to number 6 on our list: healthcare, averaging about $6,166 a year. That includes checkups, dental cleanings, prescriptions, and vision exams. This one is very important because by the time the bill comes in, you're left with 2 choices. You either delay appointments or pay with credit cards. And when you skip appointments, your health deteriorates, which leads to bigger, more expensive problems later. To avoid that, you should build a sinking fund for healthcare. If your insurance deductible, or the amount you pay before your insurance starts covering costs, is $6,200, then set aside $520 a month. Add 10 to 20% extra for routine visits or prescriptions, and your healthcare sinking fund will be ready when those bills arrive. Now, do note that this fund doesn't replace your emergency fund. The reason for this is to prevent you from treating regular healthcare like an emergency. The next one on our list is usually very sneaky: miscellaneous and annual fees. They may not sound like much, but together they add up to about $1,145 a year. These are things like subscriptions and annual memberships, such as Netflix renewals, gym passes, Costco cards, or even accounting and HOA fees. You eventually forget about them until the email shows up saying your payment has been processed, and by then, it's too late to plan. So, add up all your annual memberships and service fees, then divide that total by 12. That's how much to set aside each month. For most households, it's usually around $100 a month, enough to cover those quiet renewals before they sneak up on you. Now that we've covered all the sneaky renewals, let's talk about something closer to home, literally. Number 8 on our list is housing and maintenance, which costs about $770 a year. Even if you're renting, there are still small repairs and replacements that always pop up. And for homeowners, it's things like plumbing fixes, roof touch-ups, or that one leaky window you've been ignoring. These costs don't happen monthly, but they're inevitable. So treat them like any other predictable expense. Set aside around $65 a month, and when those maintenance costs come knocking, you'll already have the cash to handle them. After taking care of your home, it's only fair to take care of yourself, which brings us the final one on our list, personal care, which averages about $866 a year. Haircuts, skincare, and the small routines that make you feel put together. But the problem is, they're rarely part of the plan. You just go when you need to, swipe, and move on. So, build it into your system. Set aside about $70 a month for your personal care fund. That way, self-care stops being a spontaneous splurge and starts being something you're consistently ready for financially. When you look at it all together, these costs aren't random at all. They're simply poorly timed ones. So now the question becomes, where do you actually keep these sinking funds? There are a few characteristics that make a great sinking fund account, and checking these boxes will make your system work effortlessly. First, your sinking fund account should be insured and stable. Look for FDIC or NCUA insured accounts that protect your balance no matter what happens in the market. Second, your money should be easy to access and manage. You'll need to pull from these funds multiple times a year, so use a high-yield savings account or a separate checking account that allows quick transfers. Finally, aim for an account that earns at least some interest. Even a 4 to 5% APY high-yield savings account can help your sinking funds grow quietly in the background. Now, what to take away from all this? Overall, sinking funds completely change how you approach your expenses. Instead of treating predictable bills like emergencies and paying interest on top, you're planning ahead and paying only the actual cost. If this video brought you value, make sure to hit like and subscribe for more practical budgeting tips like this one. And if you think there's something I could improve, feel free to dislike and drop your feedback in the comments. It really helps shape what comes next. Your support, in whatever form it comes, means the world to me. See you in the next video.